Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CMO Leadership Forum. My name is Eric Wallace with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our speaker. To ask questions during the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we'll address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without delay, I'd like to introduce our speaker. Today, we're joined by Casey Kalpin, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Premier Incorporated. We're excited to have Casey with us for a keynote presentation called Modern Demand Generation with Buyer Intent. Welcome, Casey. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Eric, and hopefully everyone can see my slides okay. I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm tuning in from Charlotte, North Carolina. It is afternoon here, but it might be morning for some of you. So thanks so much for having me. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit about myself. I work for a company called Premier. We are a healthcare performance improvement company. Main headquarters in Charlotte, which is where I am. I've been with this company for about 10 years, been chief marketing officer for a little over 2. So lots and lots of changes in my marketing role with an influx of data, the usage of AI, but the company, remains the same. We have we IPO'd a little over 10 years ago. So we're a publicly traded company with about a $3 billion market cap. Premier is a healthcare alliance. So we work with 75% of all hospitals in the nation. We have a ton of data flowing in to our ecosystem, 45% of all US discharges in the nation on an annual basis. And lots of providers that are looking for analytics and best practices on how to lower the cost while improving the quality of care that they deliver to their patients. So that's a little bit about us, which is, may seem off topic, but I want to make sure you understand the organization before we get into how we market. Let's see, let's go to the next. Let's see if I can go to the next. Whoa, there we go. Also pertinent to this conversation is our family of brands. And so I'm sure if there are marketers out there that also work for a company with a family of brands, they understand the complexity in all of this. We are a build, partner, buy organization, our main customer being the hospital or health system. And we really try our best to have an incredibly comprehensive portfolio of offerings for them that helps solve their needs. And so all of these brands are under my management as chief marketing officer, but under the commercials, we have separate commercial teams for each brand, and it's incredibly complex to market all of this to a single customer. But I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing to solve for that. Wanted to give you a little peek into my marketing team structure. So chief marketing officer, of course, is myself. I have vice presidents over 3 main divisions, or what I would call verticals. The first is a vice president of brand experience, who owns all of our events and the experience for those events. And we house a creative agency that does anything from video production to ad creation to direct mail. They do everything from a creative standpoint for us. The next vertical on my team is marketing operations, what I would call marketing operations. This is where our digital strategy is, specifically our digital strategy that we're going to talk about today, which is for account-based marketing. We have an analytics team on this vertical. We have our business development reps as well. And then we have what's called a growth marketing team. These would likely most align to product marketers in some of your realms, but we call them growth marketers because they work on portfolios, not products. And then lastly, and critically important to the makeup of this org, is an integrated communications unit. They cover and touch all content that is disseminated from our organization. They lead our social media presence, both from an employer brand perspective and from a public perspective. any types of media, earned, owned, paid, is housed in this group, as well as a small agile team that is dedicated to corporate communications. So anything touching our internal employees from a corporate perspective. So that's about the team. Let's dive in a little bit to our tech stack. I am not endorsing or promoting any of these technologies. And actually, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about alternatives in the market, all of which are great, depending on your spend as well. But our main tech components, and let me tell you, this list could go on and on and on forever, but I wanted to surface the main ones so you know what I'm talking about today. From a CRM and automation perspective, we use Salesforce, we use Marketo, and we have a plugin to Salesforce that is called Marketo Insight that is surfacing what you'll see. I'll talk about a little later in the presentation, which is lead scoring on an individual lead record. We have an analytics platform and a really amazing person who runs performance and KPI analytics for us. We use an overlay on Salesforce called Datarama. And then we have a custom data warehouse that he manipulates based on the analytics and kind of KPIs that we're driving towards. From an account-based marketing perspective, we use 6 Sense. We have used Terminus. Both are incredibly great tools. Again, not endorsing either of them. There are a lot of these out on the market. So certainly open to hear what everyone else is working on. And again, all incredibly useful tools in terms of layering on artificial intelligence on top of a database to really kind of understand buying behavior and intent, which we're going to talk a lot about today as well. And then from a social perspective, we use Sprout Social. We've used every tool under the book for social, all, great tools. This is just specifically what my social experts like to use on a day-to-day. So let's talk about the main premise of this conversation, which is all about using artificial intelligence and some tools in the MarTech stack to look at the funnel differently. And so where we have been, where we were, is all about this lead funnel, right? Assuming that everyone on the top of the funnel, we need to attract into understanding and having some interest into our brands. We need to nurture them through campaigns, and then we want to close that business. That is really kind of the model that we have used in the past and the model that we've built teams and systems around in the past. What we know and what we've learned, and I want to remind you guys to please put any questions you have in the chat and we'll address them throughout. I'm happy to do it real time or after in a brief Q&A session. Where we're going here is that buying is happening differently, and we are a business to business company. We understand that one person doesn't make a decision, as particularly on buying decisions that are $500,000 or more. They're done by committee. And so and a lot of that buying behavior is happening, and I'll show some stats in a minute. More and more of that buying behavior is happening online. They don't necessarily want to talk one-on-one to a salesperson. They don't want to take a phone call, just like you would go on your phone and research cars or tech, or even something as simple as outfit or shoes to wear before going into a store as your preference. Buying in the B2B world is the same. And so where I wanted to take this team was to flip the funnel, what we call flipping the funnel, which is really identifying with more precision who in our entire universe of buyers might be a good prospect to that is showing and demonstrating some intent in our tools and in the buying process, and identify those, then engage them. That engagement funnel might get a little bit wider because we may include other key people on the buying committee at the specific account. And then we want to land those individuals in terms of capturing their interests, get them into a sales process, and maybe even expand by adding some additional tools into the scope of the deal based on what the account is looking for. I'll tell you real quick on my next slide what, kind of, if you're thinking, is this model for me? What are some of the criteria or checklist items that will help me understand if account-based marketing is right for me. Here's my advice. If you're selling to buying committees, not individual buyers, account-based marketing is awesome for you. If the majority of your revenue is coming from the expansion of existing accounts versus e-commerce, click to buy, brand new customers, then ABM is great for you. If net new revenue from new accounts or new people is small, but still essentially critical, this model is great for you. If you're in a highly competitive market with a few similar options, for example, with one of our main brands, it's really us against one other competitor in the market. This model is great for that. And if you have an incredibly complex sales cycle with an enterprise approach, which means you really need to get in a room with the buyer, understand their needs in order to fully flesh out kind of an all-in proposal for them, ABM is awesome for you. The whole premise of account-based marketing and intent, which we're going to talk about next, is to know who's ready to buy before your competition does. So if you're in those super, super competitive markets, this is an awesome, awesome model. Again, just to kind of drive home what I mean by buying behavior is changing. This is a McKinsey study that came out in April of 23. If you haven't looked at it, there's a link in these slides, which will be provided to you after the presentation, but that B2B buyers want it all online and they want it now. Like I said, that behavior is changing. They're not going to go to the storefront to buy a house. They're going to look on Zillow, right? And they're just like in B2B, they're not necessarily going to call the front desk of a corporation and ask for someone they can talk to you about buying something. They're going to do a lot of research online. What are their peers saying? What white papers are available? Where are they mentioned in reputable media sources? McKinsey's research found that 70% of decision makers are prepared to spend up to $500,000 in a single e-commerce transaction. So if you're in a startup or you're in a mid-stage company, and you don't have an online presence, this is critically important information to you. When I advise startups, I always say, get your website solid first. Make sure you're identifying those keywords. And just to visualize this, from a buying behavior perspective, more of the iceberg is becoming under the water's edge, right? And this is kind of dark funnel or activity that we don't necessarily see from a click to form perspective as marketers, but that we can sort of identify using some really interesting tools in artificial intelligence and by leveraging our database. We do have a really quick question that I just want to pivot to first, which is we're struggling to differentiate the customer personas we use for marketing. Do you have any advice for us? That's a great question. So I would say before you identify personas, identify your ideal customer profile in an account. And I'm happy to share some templates with you. I'll put up my social media and email after this meeting, and I can share, of course, with the Argyle folks, but there are a ton of sort of forms and kind of templates out there to use, but really try to look back at your recent sales and see which accounts or organizations you've sold to and who specifically is a buyer, even who's signing the contract, something as easy as that. And then you really want to profile out that person to learn everything you could possibly know about them. The other thing that buyers are really expecting from us is a more customized and personalized experience. They know we have data on them to identify their buying behaviors and their intent and what websites they're visiting. And so they're expecting to get that buying process in response. So really, really good question. If we have some more time at the end, I'll continue talking about customer personas. Okay, so preparing for account-based marketing and intent signals, I just want to give you guys a quick checklist of things that I think are critical for the preparation of using this data in a strategic way. So you need to build those ideal customer profiles. And this goes back to the question that we had in the chat. Build out your customer profiles from an account perspective and from a persona perspective, and make sure if there are more than one people attached to a decision, make sure that you understand them. What's the CFO's decision or role in making that decision? What is the CEO's role in making that decision? What's the CMO's role? Do they delegate it to someone else, a VP, a director, someone who is kind of in charge of making that purchase? So that's kind of what you want to do, is really identify who your customer profiles are and who those personas who buy are a part of the buying decision. And I want to make sure that you guys understand and are asking your sales team for known target accounts. If you're marketing and throwing spaghetti against a wall to a lot of targets that make up your total available market, then you're going to waste money. So stack hands with your sales team and understand what accounts they're targeting and make those your key accounts for account-based marketing. I would suggest 20 accounts or less to start for a pilot. Or 20 personas or less if you're marketing to people, not accounts. So really understand and hone in on those target accounts. Have those buying committees on accounts in your CRM. So that means on the opportunity or on the account record in your CRM, have their email address on a contact record. That's what's going to map all of this data back to a common denominator. So make sure you have all of those target accounts and ideal customer profiles and personas actually mapped out from a data perspective in your CRM. Map the buying journey to your content strategy. Okay. There's a lot of wasted content out there. And so I just want to make sure that you're thinking about what are the critical points at which someone will make a buying decision and what content might help get them over the ledge, because you're going to need that. And then understand their intent signals. If I'm shopping for shoes, might I search for platform shoes or sneakers, or if I'm shopping for a car, might I search for a 4-door with a large trunk or a 3rd row, right? So that's something that you definitely want to do, is understand those intent signals. Determine which AI model you're going to use. This goes back to the MarTech stack, and stack hands with sales. I said that, I will drill it in. Stack hands with your sales team. So migrating a little bit to lead scoring versus account scoring. So this is all about AI enablement of your database. We just talked about how clean you need your database to be. So from a lead scoring perspective, this AI enablement is going to give you some information about what individuals are doing and how likely they are going to buy. Account scoring is going to give you some information about accounts and all of the people associated with that account that might be signaling a purchase. Behavior signals is something that you're going to want to think about. So again, historically, we've focused on profile-based scoring. In the future, and what we're moving towards is behavior-based scoring. So are they reading blogs about your product? Are they studying features? Are they studying your competitor products, right? This behavior-based scoring is really what's kind of making up the future and allowing AI to make an impression on this data and give you better insights. So again, these behavior signals are going to be critically important. And I want to mention, this is not about just about buying. This is also about retaining. So there are undesirable behavior signals that your accounts or personas might be exhibiting. That means they might leave you. And so how do you get in front of that and give that to your customer success team? I want to give you guys some data on our AI model. Again, we use 6 Sense for this. And these are publicly available screens. You can use a lot of different tools out in the marketplace. But what this artificial intelligence model does is overlay on your database and all publicly available information about your database and tells you who's going to buy based on your setup of different generic keywords and of different kind of behavior signals that they're going to have. And so these are a few screens that I just want to share with you guys down to the account level. And again, these are not my accounts. These are publicly available Sixth screens, but they're alerting me when someone is exhibiting an intent to buy, which is really, really interesting. So I just kind of want to wrap up. I have a few questions in the chat. Benefits of AI enabling your database and using intent. From a client perspective, they're going to feel much more supported and like they have a personalized journey. From a sales perspective, they are going to have richer conversations that enable, them to be even smarter about their sales process. And from a marketing perspective, you're really going to be able to align with sales on a few accounts and a few personas that you can have a highly customized sales process with. Just super quick, I want you to know in this deck I put some major barriers to adoption, which you can check out. I want to get to these questions really quick. And while I do, I'll put up my contact information. So in the few minutes that we have remaining, I did get a few additional questions. How has demand generation changed now that COVID is behind us? Yes, I love this question. So to answer that, I would say it has only accelerated the need to understand buying intent because more shopping is happening online, and accelerated the need to communicate to accounts because more accounts and individual personas within those accounts are doing their own shopping online. So you have to tailor your content to their specific needs, and you need that to be custom. Let's see, question 3, what criteria do you use to rank and prioritize your marketing leads? We use what I demonstrated in this account, which is intent, signal of intent, and also signal of account intent. So both from an individual basis and from a account perspective. Really good question. What's the biggest mistake you've seen companies make in collecting and using buyer intent data, and how do you get past it? I'll tell you, I hate when I get those emails as a chief marketing officer that says, I saw you on our website. Like, that's just super creepy. And I'm sure hopefully some of you are laughing at that because I think it's hysterical, but incredibly creepy. Use it to inform your strategies. Don't necessarily use it to really sort of like call someone out for shopping. So I think that's a huge mistake. Question 5 is, how do you anticipate demand generation techniques are going to evolve over the next couple of years? Do you see any new demand generation techniques coming online soon? This is where the future is, you guys. Using artificial intelligence and marketing technology tools to lay on top of your database to ensure that you are listening when buyers are shopping. So much of what used to be is no longer. People going to your website and filling out a form for information, people calling you and asking for a sales process. The reality is, if you are not skating to where the puck is going to be, somebody else is going to get there first. And that means your competitors will be there first. So if your buyers are shopping for your products, you want to be the first one to intervene and say you have exactly what you need and demonstrate how it's differentiated. Those were the questions in the chat. Lindsay or Eric, do we have any on the phone that you guys want to share?
Sorry, that's all the questions we have for now.
Okay, perfect. Well, in the few minutes remaining, let me just go over these barriers to adoption real quick. And if anyone has additional questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I think the number one barrier to adoption of this kind of demand gen tactic is sales and marketing misalignment. And I would say, consider a pilot. Like I said, 20 accounts or less. You may even want to do a small 3 accounts pilot for account-based marketing and intent signals. And we specifically created what's called a SAM task force, which is a sales and marketing task force, to get super users demonstrating, how they might use this data, because they're going to show you signals that aren't what you'll expect. I drilled this in. CRM cleanliness is so important. We are only as insightful as the data and the underlying systems. So make sure that CRM is clean, down to the account and people attached to the account level. Unwelcomed account insight. Sometimes you're going to send this to your sales team or your account team, and they're going to be like, that's great, but I have no idea what to do with that. So when you deploy this insight, make sure that you're suggesting a next step. If someone is expressing, for example, signaling intent on one of your competitors, which you can do with a branded key term, make sure that you're surfacing a next step to say, don't forget about this piece of content that we have that is a competitive battle card against our product and our competitors, right? So make sure that you're kind of guiding them. Make sure you understand that this type of demand gen is only one piece to your puzzle. You still need to do traditional demand gen. You still need to go out and have conferences and events based on your marketing mix. Digital is going to tend to be a little bit cheaper. This is more on the expensive side of digital. So make sure that, garbage in, garbage out, make sure that your CRM is clean and you're putting the right signals in. But make sure you understand how to explain that this is part of a multi-pronged process. And then lastly, executive buy-in and understanding is critically important here. The way I explain this to my C-suite, which is how I'll end today, is that account-based marketing and even buying intent is the difference between fishing with nets, which is a traditional marketing methodology, to fishing with spheres. You want to know who's buying, who's in a cycle, who's right for a sales intervention, and go after those accounts or personas specifically. Eric, that's it from me. I think we're out of time.
Great. Thank you, Casey, for that excellent keynote. I also want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This concludes the Argyle CMO Leadership Forum. Thanks again for joining us today and engaging with our content. Have a great rest of your day.